Adjunct Professor Moran, Microeconomics 112. We're concluding our discussion of comparative advantage and why individuals or countries trade. And the reason they trade is because by specializing in the goods for which they have the best combination of resources, they'll produce so much more that they can trade the surplus of what they produce for the thing they don't produce. As a result, they'll have a better combination of goods than they could if they tried to produce both goods on their own. The increase in the amount of the good they don't produce that results is called gains from trade, and that's what we're going to do in this problem. So here's a word problem that will quantify the gains from trade. When you do a word problem, it's important to write down everything the problem gives you in the text, so you don't have to constantly look for it again and again. It'll explicitly give you the variables you need. When I was in grad school, there was an entire semester course on word problems. In business, you often have to not just solve a word problem, but conceive of the question itself. Here, we've been given the problem, and we just have to solve it. So we're going to read the problem and write down everything necessary to solve the problem. Suppose that Scotland and the United States agree to specialize according to comparative advantage and to the following terms of trade. One oat for one bagpipe. In a production period, there are 60 hours. Before specialization, so this is Scotland, pre-specialization, Scotland has 7.5 oats and 6 bagpipes. Post-specialization, Scotland wants to maintain 6 bagpipes. Okay, now what is the problem asking for? How many tons of oats will it have? What are the gains from trade? We'll have to find out how many oats Scotland will produce if they specialize in oats. It may be tempting to provide that as an answer. So it's very important that you distinguish what the question is actually asking for, so you don't inadvertently provide a response to something that isn't explicitly what they're asking for, because we'll need this number first. Alright. Now we know that Scotland is going to specialize in oats. So we're going to have a problem that solves for oats. Post-specialization, Scotland will have no bagpipes and some amount of oats. They're going to trade those oats to achieve 6 bagpipes. So we want to know, because of specialization, how many oats Scotland will have. Now we know that the resource is 60 hours. Scotland has 60 hours to produce oats. Now what we have to decide is whether we're going to use an input table or an output table to multiply times our time to get oats. Here's Scotland, input for oats. Here's Scotland output for oats. If we take hours and multiply it by the input, hours per oats. Let's just make a word problem out of this. Input, Scotland, hours per oats. What you get is hours squared divided by oats. Input, hours per oats, times something that represents hours. You get hours squared oats. That's not what we're looking for. Instead, if we go to the output table and select oats per hour, if we make a word problem of it, we have oats per hour times hours. Well, the hours terms cancels out, and the only word left is oats, and that's what we're trying to solve for. So we're going to go to the output table and get Scotland's output ratio of oats per hours, 1/4, that's oats per hour, multiply that by the production period of 60 hours. The word hour cancels out. We know whatever number this results in will equal oats. So again, we took Scotland's output ratio, oats per hour. We know that our production period is 60 hours. 60 hours. In words, the denominator of this will cancel out the numerator of that, and the only word left is oats. So whatever number results from this equation will equal oats. So 1 times 60 is 60. Any number without a denominator has a denominator of 1. 60 divided by 4 is 15. So if Scotland specializes in oats, as we determined in our prior video, and there are 60 hours in a production period, and Scotland can produce 1 oat in 4 hours, Scotland will produce a total of 15 oats. Now, Scotland wants to trade oats to gain bagpipes. Scotland has to give up 6 oats to gain 6 bagpipes, because the terms of trade are 1-to-1. Scotland will end up with 9 oats and 6 bagpipes. So, how many will Scotland have after specialization? They'll have 9 oats. The question asks us to solve, what are the gains from trade? Well, after trade, Scotland has 9 oats. Before trade, Scotland had 7.5 oats. This is post-specialization. This is pre-specialization. Gains from trade are 1.5. So, because the resources of the world and individuals are not evenly distributed, countries and individuals are going to have comparative advantages in producing one good over another. They'll specialize in the ones which they have the better combination of resources. By specializing that and then trading, they'll end up with more goods than they could have if they tried to produce both goods on their own. In this example, Scotland starts off with 7.5 and 6 and ends up with 9 oats and maintains 6 bagpipes. As a result, gaining 1.5 oats through specialization. That concludes our discussion of trade and comparative advantage.